In 1644, a Latin book titled The Kingdom of Chocolate featured an engraving depicting Poseidon driving a seahorse-drawn chariot, solemnly receiving a cacao fruit from a crowned Mexican woman. By then, over a century had passed since cacao beans were first brought to Europe. Rather than a beginning, this was a belated coronation ceremony. Using the sea god most familiar to them, the Europeans held a rite of crowning, witnessed by the gods, for this seed from the New World. In 1753, the Swedish scientist Carl Linnaeus officially gave the tree the scientific name Theobroma cacao, which in Greek means food of the gods. 3,000 years earlier, the Maya had already begun cultivating the cacao tree and called it cacao. Throughout history, it existed for a long time primarily in the form of a beverage. It is worth noting that the cocoa powder we know today owes its existence to the Dutch chemist Seenrod van Houten, who in 1828 invented a hydraulic press that successfully separated cocoa butter from the cacao bean. The remaining dry cake was then ground into powder. This was the precursor of modern cocoa powder. The proportion of cocoa butter in cacao beans depends on the variety of the cacao tree and its growing environment. Cocoa butter is highly valuable. It is not only used to produce high-quality chocolate, but is also widely applied in the cosmetics and pharmaceutical industries. According to statistics released by the ECO in early 2026, global cacao bean production in the 2024-25 season, approximately 4.7 million metric tons. Côte d'Ivoire remains the top producer, accounting for about 36% to 40% of the global total. Ecuador ranks second, with a share of approximately 10%. Ghana, once the second largest producer, now ranks third, contributing about 11%. Indonesia, formerly the third largest producer, currently accounts for about 3% to 4% of global production, and has dropped to 7th place. Cacao trees grow slowly, taking 5 to 7 years after planting before they produce beans. The fruit typically matures in 4 to 6 months, with the main harvest season running from October to December. The cacao tree bears fruit twice a year, and each tree yields only 1 to 2 kilograms of dried cacao beans annually. Cacao beans are mainly divided into 3 varieties. The first is Criollo, originally from Venezuela, which accounts for only 5% of global production. True pure Criollo is extremely rare and represents the top tier of cacao. It has a delicate flavor with floral and fruity notes and low bitterness. Today, the finest Criollo still comes from the village of Cuau in Venezuela. The second is Forastero, originally from South America, native to the Amazon basin, and accounting for over 80% of global production. Although it is the most common variety in terms of yield, its flavor is intense, bitter, and acidic, often used as the base for mass-market chocolate. The third is Trinitario, a hybrid of the first two, originating from the island of Trinidad. It combines fine flavor with strong disease resistance, and accounts for about 15% of production. Today, beyond the classic origin of Venezuela, the map of fine cacao beans has expanded to countries such as Ecuador and Peru in Central America, and even Cameroon in Africa, which became a new gold medal-producing region in 2026. Regardless of the variety, all cacao beans must go through standardized processing procedure to become cocoa liquor. The journey from cacao bean to cocoa liquor involves 5 steps: harvesting, fermentation, drying, roasting, shelling, and grinding. First, farmers manually cut the cacao pods from the trees using long-handled knives, then split the pods open to extract the beans and pulp. Next comes the crucial fermentation stage, where yeasts and acetic acid bacteria in the pulp act sequentially, converting sugars into alcohol and then into acetic acid, which penetrates the beans to remove astringency and develop aroma. This step determines up to 60% of the final flavor. Fermentation time varies by variety. Criollo with its thin pulp and delicate flavor takes about 2 to 3 days. Forastero with its thick pulp and intense flavor requires 5 to 7 days. Trinitario falls somewhere in between. After fermentation, the beans are sun-dried for 1 to 2 weeks to reduce moisture content to 7-8, halting fermentation and preventing mold. Next comes roasting, where at temperatures of 120 to 150 the beans become brittle, deepen in color, and release further aroma. Finally, the roasted beans are shelled and ground. The friction generates heat, melting the beans into a thick paste. This is cocoa liquor, the fundamental raw material for all chocolate products. Cocoa liquor can be thought of as 100% cacao chocolate. It is quite bitter and not widely accepted by the general public. From cocoa liquor to the chocolate we typically eat, there is one crucial step: blending. Manufacturers add sugar, milk powder, extra fats, and other ingredients to balance the taste, followed by a refining process to make the chocolate smooth and silky. Interestingly, the melting point of cocoa butter is between 34 C and 38 C, while the temperature inside the human mouth is about 36 C to 37 C. This is why chocolate remains firm at room temperature, but melts instantly once placed in the mouth. This wonderful melts-in-your-mouth sensation is the unique charm of cocoa butter. In 1937, the U.S. military commissioned the Hershey Company to develop a military chocolate bar, with requirements that it be heat-resistant, high in calories, and not too tasty, to prevent soldiers from eating their emergency rations prematurely. Later, Hershey introduced tropical chocolate, capable of withstanding 48 C, and desert chocolate, heat-resistant to over 60 C. The tropical chocolate even traveled to the moon aboard Apollo 15. Because cacao trees grow slowly and have demanding climate requirements, cocoa butter is a limited and expensive resource. To allow people to enjoy the taste of chocolate at a lower cost, cocoa butter substitutes have emerged. These substitutes mainly fall into two categories. One is cocoa butter equivalent, extracted from plants such as mango and palm fruit, whose composition is relatively close to that of natural cocoa butter, typically used to replace 5% to 20% of the cocoa butter in chocolate. The other is cocoa butter replacer, which differs significantly in composition from cocoa butter and may contain trans fatty acids, making it unhealthy for long-term consumption. As early as 1400 BCE, the people of Mesoamerica began using cacao pulp to brew an alcoholic beverage, and only later started using cacao beans. By the 8th century, cacao beans were even used as currency by the Maya. They could be used to pay taxes and wages, with a porter's daily wage being about 100 cacao beans. In 1492, during his fourth voyage to the Americas, Christopher Columbus saw cacao beans being used as local currency for the first time. His son Ferdinand recorded an interesting detail. When a few almond-like cacao beans fell into the sea from the ship, the locals immediately jumped into the water to retrieve them, as if an eye had fallen to the ground. Shortage of cacao beans may have even contributed to the decline of the Mayan civilization. In religious terms, the Aztecs believed that the cacao tree was a bridge connecting the earthly world with heaven, and that the feathered serpent god was expelled from the heavenly palace for giving cacao to humans. Only elite men were allowed to drink cacao. Women and children were not permitted. Cacao was also used in weddings, funerals, newborn baptisms, even given to sacrificial victims to drink as means of sanctification. In medicine, the layer of oil on the surface of a cacao beverage was the precursor to sunscreen. Modern research has confirmed that cocoa butter is rich in natural antioxidants. When applied to the skin, it forms a protective film that locks in moisture and does have some ability to absorb ultraviolet rays. Therefore, it is often used as a natural base ingredient in lipsticks, moisturizers, and sunscreens. The Aztec king Moctezuma consumed large amounts of cacao beans to boost his sexual stamina, and soldiers drank cacao before going into battle to enhance their fighting capability. A Spanish priest once recorded nearly 300 medicinal uses of cacao, and modern science has confirmed that cacao can lower blood pressure. The one who truly brought cacao back to Europe was the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés. At a banquet hosted by the Aztec emperor, Cortés tasted a spicy, foamy beverage called Zocal-tel, served in a golden cup that was discarded after drinking, signifying that it was even more precious than gold. Europeans initially found this bitter and spicy liquid unappealing, so they replaced the chili peppers with vanilla and sugar, transforming it into a sweet aristocratic drink. In 1615, the Spanish princess married King Louis XIV of France, bringing with her to the French court a chest of carefully packaged cacao as a token of love. This romantic gesture not only started the tradition of giving chocolate on Valentine's Day, but also quickly turned chocolate into a fashionable craze among the European upper class. From there, it gradually spread throughout Europe. In the early 19th century, in order to secure raw materials, Spain, Portugal, and Netherlands began moving cacao plantations from the Americas to Africa. The Portuguese were the first to transplant the disease-resistant Forastero cacao tree from Brazil to the west coast of Africa. To their surprise, Africa's climate and soil seemed even more suitable for cacao than its original home in the Americas, so they began spreading the cacao tree further inland. By the late 19th century, cacao had been introduced to Ghana, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire, where it quickly found a second home. By the early 20th century, Africa was quietly contributing more than two-thirds of the world's cacao production. One cocoa bean, half a history of globalization. From the jungle to the tip of your tongue, from the sacred to the everyday. So next time you eat chocolate, you can think of it this way. This taste carries the saltiness of the sea. After all, Poseidon delivered it.